Hey, what's up YouTube, and welcome to Yes, You May Part 4. That's right, we're picking up the series again with Part 4. Last time we left you with some expanded crew options for the Mei Feng crew. And this time we're only going to be considering one question for Mei Feng. And assuming that you might have picked up some of the new plastics and started playing her crew and adding in some of those plastics, at some point you will have to make a decision as far as what faction you will play Mei Feng as. Because, as you know, Malifaux is a game where you declare your faction first before you select your master. And for Mei Feng, she enjoys the versatility of being a dual faction master. But, you know, when the game starts, you are going to have to select what faction you're playing for, and that will obviously affect your hiring options. And in the case of like a tournament or a league or a campaign, it's going to affect your other available leaders for leaders to head up your crews. So, in the case of Mei Feng, we're talking about her dual faction being 10 Thunders and Arcanists. So, what are the differences of the Mei Feng crew with regards to these two factions? What are some of her expansion options for each crew? And why should you pick one over the other? Now, the short answer is there is no wrong answer here. It boils down to personal preference. I will tell you where at least some of the players in our group have been leaning and some of their insights as far as where Mei Feng is strong and where she's probably not quite as strong. So we're going to cover that. So, in this episode, the only thing we're talking about is Mei Feng for the future and for the faction. Which faction is she going for? So, as we consider this question, I wanted to let you know that I'm only approaching the question from the standpoint of gameplay, utility, and model growth. There are a number of different factors that you will want to consider when you are deciding if you're branching outward towards Arcanists or as 10 Thunders. Model appearance notwithstanding, I mean, that's a very good indicator of where you might want to go. If you like stuff like, hey, I also like the look of, say, Yan Lo stuff, you might want to go 10 Thunders. If you like the Arcanist range and you like how that looks, you might go that way. So, notwithstanding fluff or model appearance or anything like that, this video is about gameplay options and model expansion when moving into one faction or the other. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Mei Feng as one of your choices as an Arcanist leader. Now, Mei Feng in this crew of leaders that you've got here is actually a pretty solid choice, and the Arcanists enjoy, amongst other factions, they enjoy a wide variety of playstyles. The downside to that is that there isn't so much strong synergy between individual crews, and certain crews like the guys I have on the end here, Marcus and Rasputina in particular, tend to run more highly specialized crews, so you don't have a lot of model synergy between those two crews with Mei in particular. However, take Mei out of the picture and the problem gets a little bit worse, because you may have a little bit of synergy here between, say, Karis and Ramos, or Colette and a little bit of Ramos, maybe some Karis in there, but putting her in there is really nice when you're looking at things like Soulstone pools, where models can interchangeably go from one leader to another. So, Mei Feng in particular, very strong with the same types of models that could go with Karis. Also, very strong with models that could go with Ramos. And even to some degree, you can build some specialized Colette crews around some of the same models that Mei Feng might benefit from taking. Now, that's not to discourage you from running, say, Mei Feng and still using a master like Marcus, who runs almost a completely separate faction by himself, or, there is some difficulty between Mei Feng and hiring models with Frozen Heart, which are models that Rasputina would really favor. But that said, she does bring a lot to this particular group of leaders. For one, she is probably the most overall balanced between all the leaders, because, when you're looking at these leaders individually, you've got, speedy speedy melee with maybe some issues with long-term durability, and then you have the opposite here, spellcasting with strong durability. Then you have kind of spellcasting light with some burning token action, spellcasting heavy with slower mobility, and then you've got super fast, tricksy, maybe not so durable crews. Mei Feng kind of balances this crew out in that she gives them a truly dedicated combat master that's capable on the offensive and defensive end. So Mei Feng taken as an Arcanist leader gives you quite a bit of balance. She may not do the things individually as well as the other Arcanist masters, but that's why you include her in the crew. She's kind of a catch-all, at least in my opinion and the opinion of some others. So she does very well with the Arcanist leaders, and selected as part of the Arcanist leaders that you might choose when you are looking at a tournament or something like that. Okay, so now let's consider some of the Arcanist expansion options, or non-standard Arcanist expansion options for Mei Feng. In general, you can consider a lot of the stuff that Karis and Ramos can take, or that they normally synergize well with, also being very strong choices for Mei Feng. And I'm talking about constructs and MNSU members in particular. So stuff like mixing in the large steampunk arachnid as another 5 soulstone rail walk point is very good for Mei Feng. The 50 mil base is really nice for helping get those rail walks off and giving her a little bit better positioning. But don't forget the little 3-point steampunk arachnid and the arachnid swarms. Also very good for Mei Feng. She can also use them as a rail walk point, and what's nice is you've got some latch on and some disruption field stuff going on. You might also consider, say, a gunsmith for ranged capability within your crew. Maybe even an alternate beat stick like the Steamborg Executioner. You can also take the ever useful Soulstone Miner. And of course, with the MNSU stuff, you have a brilliant utility and a nice 4 soulstone model here with the Union Miner. Now, what's nice about the Union Miner is the Union Miner can open up an alpha companion chain with MNSU members. Mei Feng being an MNSU member, as well as stuff like Rail Workers, Willie, and King. So this is a great little alpha striking minion to have when you're taking Mei Feng as an Arcanist. Now, with all of this said, one other construct that I almost forgot that's very potent, obviously the Corfi and Corfi duet. Very strong minion, not just for Mei Feng, but for any Arcanist master. In particular, Colette, but the duet is so strong it's great with anybody. So now, with all that said, I would advise you not just to look at MNSU members and constructs for Mei Feng as an Arcanist. I mean, the Arcanist range is diverse, is well fleshed out, the models are well known and have their strengths and their weaknesses. I mean, you might mix it up every now and then. You might throw in a beast or something that might be found in a Marcus crew. You might throw in something that might be more common to a Colette crew or so forth. Don't limit yourself. But when you're starting to branch out, a good idea to keep in mind is stuff that works well with Karis and Ramos is also going to work well with Mei Feng. So let's talk about Mei Feng when considered as one of the 10 Thunders Masters. And this is one of the topics that I think is fairly new to the Malifaux community. It's one that is maybe debated a little bit in some circles because these are all new masters and the models are still coming out. But anyway, let's have a look at Mei Feng in the mix of 10 Thunders Masters. Now, with Mei Feng, you do get a combat heavily oriented master. And a lot of times what that does when you're considering her as a master is that pits her up against Misaki as your combat master for 10 Thunders. And this is a tough call to make between Misaki and Mei Feng. Now, they both have their strengths and weaknesses, but some folks would argue that in terms of pure killing efficiency and the ability to assassinate models and just overall sheer killing power, Misaki probably does it a bit better than Mei Feng. And I can see that in terms of her as a model, her single-handed ability to take down other models, and as well as some of the other faction or crew-specific options she gets. For example, she gets to add guys like Hans and Taylor and Ronin. She gets to take those as Ten Thunders models, and those can be some very killy models and great with Misaki. Mei Feng is also a very mobile master, though. She's a fairly tough mobile master. Like I said, she's a balanced master, and that might be her strength in the Ten Thunders mix. Now, the counter-argument to that, though, is that when you look at the selection of Ten Thunders masters, they're all fairly balanced. I mean, this faction, maybe unlike some of the other factions, is really strong in that you could technically achieve most, if not all, of the same strategies by picking any of these leaders. And that's legit. You know, you can build, for example, you could build Lynch to be highly mobile. He's a card trick guy. He's specialized play, but you can build him very killy. You can also build Yan Lo to be very resilient, much more resilient in some cases than Mei Feng. And then you've got the speed and utility denial of a master like Lucas McCabe, who can hand out slow, who has strong, cheap minions at his disposal, and can get across the board fairly quickly. So, when seen in this light, some people even argue that Mei Feng might be the weakest of all of the Ten Thunders masters. And there might be some credibility when looked at a specifically when we're looking at very lean, highly competitive situations where, you know, if you want your master to do something very something specific, you want your master to do it very well. Now, that's one thing that these other four masters do better than Mei Feng, is they kind of have their one, maybe two things that they do, but they do them individually better than she can. The only thing she really brings to the table is the fact that she can to some degree have the kind of utility and have the killing power, have the durability that these other masters feature. It's just maybe not quite as focused as they are, and that's where discussions of power come into play. That said, I still love keeping Mei Feng in the mix with my Ten Thunders masters, and she still is my favorite of the Ten Thunders masters. And this is a playstyle preference. This isn't really, I'm not really speaking in terms of efficiency or anything like that. I just love that I can run, for example, let's say I was doing a Soulstone pool. I could run a 3-master Ten Thunder Soulstone pool, which I've done in the past, and keep Mei Feng in the mix because she is kind of that catch-all. Some of the other Ten Thunders masters, like say Yan Lo, may have less synergy with the other leaders, and it might be harder to put him in a Soulstone pool. Imagine if you tried to run like a Yan Lo, McCabe, and Lynch pool. That's not going to work as well as if you threw Mei Feng in with one of the other 2 masters. I think that's going to work much more effectively. And so, really, that's what she brings to the table. She's a little more durable than Lynch or Misaki. She might be a little bit more outwardly killy than these other 2, and it's that balance that I'm talking about. That's why we're looking at this series and why we're looking at Mei Feng, in that she can do a lot of things. She may not do things well, or she may not be the master of anything, but she is the jack of all trades, at least in one opinion here, when considered with the Ten Thunders masters. Okay, got a bit of a crowded shot here. Sorry, I got a little carried away with the non-standard 10 Thunders models that you might add to a Mei Feng crew, because it's a lot of fun. You put the models together just to see what type of crew you might be capable of. Now, Mei Feng in 10 Thunders might at first suffer from the perceived loss of constructs. And losing constructs generally means losing rail walk points. And losing your rail walk might affect your mobility a bit. That said, I don't know how valuable more than 1 to 2 rail walk points is going to be. So, to me, once you get used to not needing as many rail walk points, I mean, obviously when you start, you're going to want to lean pretty hard on that rail walk and learn it, learn when to use it, how to use it, and so forth. But once you get that down, you can experiment and start to bring other elements into your list to give it different utility, different versatility. And I think that's where 10 Thunders versus Arcanists can do fairly well for Mei Feng. For example, one of her main mobility tricks when she is a dedicated 10 Thunders list is that she can still use rail workers, and she can still use clockwork traps, which aren't out yet, as rail walk points. But what about just using the Torakagi and using the mistaken identity and some of the other bury and unbury and switch tricks that the Torakagi lends to a 10 Thunders crew? Also very useful. The other things that she can bring in, she can bring an Oirin without having to pay the extra cost as a mercenary, and has some synergy as a 10 Thunders. Also, don't forget some of the dual faction models that are generally associated with other crews. For example, Wastrels. Here's a highly mobile, fairly strong model at 4 soul stones that Mei Feng can hire. She can even change her main beat stick to something like, say, a Toto or Graves even. She can also bring in some healing utility and some strategic utility with Yamaziko. She can bring in archers for ranged. So I wouldn't give up on the idea of Mei Feng as a 10 Thunders master. Don't forget, she also has this guy, the 10 Thunders brother, who can open up something really cool that Mei Feng can do in both of her factions. Maybe this is unique to her in that she can open up an alpha chain or an alpha strike companion chain in both factions. She can do this with the 10 Thunders brother when she is part of the 10 Thunders crew. So I guess what I'm saying here is, don't limit yourself. If you're going to go 10 Thunders, it might be worth looking at some of the other boxes of masters for 10 Thunders. For example, the Misaki box, or even the Dark Debts, or even the McCabe box. So don't be afraid to look around. This is largely uncharted territory for the Malifaux player base, but it's very fun. You get to play with all of the new models, and if you really like this Asian theme, 10 Thunders is quite fun, and it gives you a lot of versatility. And I really don't think Mei Feng, she might be considered one of the weaker 10 Thunders masters, but she still has very, very viable options with 10T. Okay, so that's it for this video. Hope you guys got a little bit of insight as far as arming yourself for this decision whether or not to go Arcanist or 10 Thunders. If you want my honest opinion, go both. Go both like I did, because it's fun, and your crew options are amazing going one way or the other, and you're going to want to play her for both factions. It's one of the reasons why I took her, is so that I could play her every day if I wanted to. And if I ran into an Arcanist player, I'd play her as 10 Thunders, because I don't like playing the same faction that they play. Or if I run into a 10 Thunders player, I may play her as Arcanist, because Arcanist can do some funny tricks to 10 Thunders masters. So, anyway, there is no wrong answer here. I hope that you guys did pick up a little bit of information along the way. And with that said, I will see you guys on the next video. So thanks for watching.